U.S. Marines' deadly FPV drone appears in Ukraine. I'm going to repeat that because the implications here are they're massive. A new weapon, the Bolt-M FPV drone, reportedly just bought by the U.S. Marines, may now be operating in Ukraine. Powered by Anduril's AI Lattice system, this isn't just another drone. It signals a major shift in modern autonomous warfare. Today is January 24, 2026. If you want to understand how the battlefield is changing, literally right this second, you need to be paying attention. Before you really get into the weeds, if you support Ukraine and want to stay ahead of the curve, subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I am Alex. Join me with Area for the latest deep dive by Defense Report. We do sharp, no-nonsense breakdowns of global defense news, military tech, and strategic developments. And today we're covering the mystery of the unnamed customer, the one who received 300 cutting-edge suicide drones while the U.S. Marines were still testing them.
It's a fascinating story, and, we aren't just talking about a new gadget here.
Yeah.
We are talking about a flying robot that can decide how to strike even if you lose connection. We're looking at a fundamental shift in the kill chain.
And it's not all just success stories and slick marketing videos, right?
Right.
I know we love the high-tech gloss, but there's some grit under the fingernails here.
Oh, far from it. We absolutely need to discuss the 22-acre fire caused by a failed test in Oregon.
Right.
And, more importantly, why Ukrainian soldiers previously called one of this company's earlier drones an abject failure.
Abject failure. You don't usually see that on the investor slide deck.
No, you do not.
But we also have to talk about why the Pentagon has officially decided that these robots are now consumable, just like billets.
Exactly. The mission of this deep dive isn't just to look at specs on a page. It's to understand how the war in Ukraine is forcing the entire Western defense industry to speed up or, frankly, get left behind.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start with the hard numbers because money talks, especially in the defense world. The breaking news is that the U.S. Marine Corps just awarded Anduril Industries a contract worth $23.9 million.
That's for a program called OPSFL, Organic Precision Fires Light.
It's a mouthful of Pentagon jargon.
It is, but it's actually quite specific. It means the Marines realized they needed something light, lethal, and really smart that a small squad could carry.
Right. And for that money, they're buying over 600 Bolt-M loitering munitions. That's the technical term, but let's be real.
They're kamikaze drones.
They're kamikaze drones.
Huh.
Deliveries to the Marines start next month, February 2026, and will run through April 2027.
But here is where it gets really interesting and where, the detective work begins. Anduril didn't just start making these yesterday.
No.
During the 13-month testing phase for the Marines, they produced about 550 units. We know 250 of those went to the Marines for evaluation.
Okay, so quick math. 550 made, minus 250 to the Marines. That leaves 300 drones unaccounted for. You don't just lose 300 flying bombs in the couch cushions.
Exactly. And an Anduril executive, Dan Layton, he mentioned these units went to an unnamed customer, but he dropped a very specific clue.
Oh.
He described this customer as participants in current conflicts.
Participants in current conflicts. I mean, come on, that's barely a code. Unless there's a secret war happening on the moon, that narrows the list down considerably.
Well, if you connect those dots with reports from outlets like Defense Express, the only operator who really fits this description, who also has a history with Anduril, is Ukraine.
So what does this all mean? It implies the U.S. Marines bought a weapon that was being battle-tested in real time on the Ukrainian front lines against Russian forces.
That is the key takeaway. Ukraine isn't just a recipient of aid here. They're the global laboratory. The Marines are confident in this purchase because the technology has likely already faced the harshest electronic warfare environment on the entire planet, the Donbas.
It really just highlights how critical European security has become to American military readiness. We aren't just helping them. They are teaching us.
Yeah.
They're paying in blood to validate the technology that will protect NATO soldiers down the line.
Precisely. It flips the whole script on the usual donor-recipient relationship. But let's look at the actual machine. What is the Bolt-M? Because if you look at it, it doesn't look like a cruise missile.
No, it looks like something you'd almost buy at Best Buy, but way scarier. It's a VTL quadcopter.
VTL meaning vertical takeoff and landing.
Right. No runway needed. It weighs about 12 to 15 pounds, so it fits in a standard rucksack. A single soldier can get it in the air in 5 minutes.
And that portability is the game changer. In traditional warfare, if you wanted an airstrike, you got on the radio, you called a base, you waited for a jet.
And hoped it arrived on time.
And hoped. This puts the airstrike inside the backpack of a corporal.
Okay, so performance-wise, what are we looking at?
You're looking at over 40 minutes of endurance and a range of about 20 kilometers. In some more extreme profiles, like a one-way trip where you're not saving battery to come home, maybe up to 30 or 40
Out
kilometers,
of bunch.
it carries a 3-pound warhead, which is substantial.
And that can be what? Anti-personnel? Anti-material?
Both. It can be tailored. Anti-personnel to take out a trench line, or anti-material to disable a light vehicle or, say, a radar dish.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. We've seen quadcopters in Ukraine for years. Hobby drones with grenades strapped to them using 3D printed clips. Why is the Bolt-M a breakthrough? Why pay millions when a commercial drone costs $500?
That's the secret sauce. It isn't the plastic and the propellers, it's the software. It runs on something called Lattice AI. See, flying a standard FPV first-person view drone is incredibly difficult. Have you ever tried to fly one?
I tried a racing drone once. I think it lasted about 6 seconds before I put it straight into a tree.
Exactly. You need this incredible manual dexterity. You have to account for wind, for signal lag. It takes months to train a good pilot. And in a war, you don't always have months.
So, with the Bolt-M,
The operator doesn't need to be a pro pilot. They just make 4 simple decisions: where to look, what to follow, how to engage, and when to strike.
so it flies itself.
Essentially, yes. The soldier looks at a touchscreen interface. They see a target. Let's say it's a tank or a radar station. They just draw a box around it on the screen.
A bounding box.
Right. And the drone's computer vision locks onto that object.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me, the so-called killer feature, terminal guidance autonomy.
This is absolutely critical for the Ukrainian front. The biggest problem right now is jamming. Russian electronic warfare is incredibly dense.
Right.
Usually with a standard drone, as you dive toward the target, you get lower, you lose line of sight, or the enemy just jams the signal, and the video feed cuts to static right before impact.
The last mile problem. You get all the way there, and then you go blind.
Exactly. You miss because you can't steer it in. With Bolt-M, once you draw that box and tell it to kill, you can put the controller down.
Really?
The drone doesn't need the link anymore. It uses its own onboard AI to see the target and fly itself into it no matter what.
That is terrifying and amazing. It solves the biggest countermeasure the Russians have. It basically says, go ahead and jam me. I already know where I'm going.
It fundamentally changes the equation. If you can't jam it electronically, you have to shoot it down physically.
Yeah.
And hitting a small, fast-moving quadcopter is much, much harder than just flipping a switch on a jammer.
Okay, now we need to do a reality check. Anduril is a Silicon Valley darling. Palmer Luckey, the founder, he's the Oculus VR guy. He's definitely a showman. He claims their systems have destroyed hundreds of millions in Russian assets.
And look, there's definitely truth to the effectiveness. We also know the UK Ministry of Defense just signed a $30 million deal for larger Lattice 600M and 700M drones for Ukraine.
A significant investment.
It is. That's a huge commitment from the British, reinforcing that focus on European security. The UK isn't just throwing money away, they're seeing results on the ground.
But you're the voice of reason here. It hasn't all been smooth sailing, has it? I feel like we often get sold this magic bullet narrative.
No, and it's so important not to buy into the hype blindly. Innovation is messy. There was a report where Ukrainian SBU soldiers called one of Anduril's previous drones the Ghost.
I remember this.
They called it an abject failure.
Abject failure. That is not the quote you want on your marketing brochure.
Not at all. It was vulnerable to jamming. They actually stopped using them in 2024. And there were also reports of the Lattice drones crashing or missing targets in Ukraine early on.
And it's not just in combat, right? Tell us about the fire.
Right. This was back in August of 2025 in Oregon. Anduril was testing their Anvil interceptor drone. Something went wrong, likely a battery or a propulsion failure, and it sparked a 22-acre wildfire.
Okay, that's bad. Starting a forest fire is definitely a failed test.
It is. And there were other issues. There are drone boats failing during Navy exercises, causing safety violations. The point is, this technology is iterating, and it's iterating rapidly. The unnamed customer, Ukraine, isn't just receiving perfect American tech.
No.
They are validating it. They are finding the bugs, the flaws, the jamming vulnerabilities, and they are forcing the company to fix them fast.
So when the Marines get their Bolt-M units next month, they're getting a version that has survived the crucible of the Eastern Front. They're benefiting from the hard lessons learned by Ukrainian operators.
Precisely.
Let's zoom out to the strategic level for a minute. This Bolt-M purchase seems to coincide with a massive shift in how the Pentagon views hardware. We're used to hearing about aircraft carriers and F-35s, things you keep for 30 years.
And this connects directly to a memo from the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, from back in July 2025. It's one of those boring administrative documents that actually changes everything.
Oh, I love boring documents that change everything. What did it say?
It reclassified drones under 55 pounds as consumable munitions.
Consumable, like bullets or MREs.
Yes, exactly like bullets. Before this, a drone was durable property, like an airplane or a jeep. If a soldier crashed one in training, there was a whole investigation, loads of paperwork. It made commanders terrified to let their soldiers actually practice with them.
Don't touch the drone, Private. It costs more than your car.
Exactly. Now they're just ammo. If you use it, you use it. If you crash it, you grab another one. This finally allows for training as you fight. It removes that bureaucratic fear of breaking the expensive toy.
That is so essential. You can't learn to use these things if you're afraid of the paperwork. But can we build enough of them? We keep hearing about this Arsenal 1.
That's Anduril's attempt to manufacture weapons the way Tesla manufactures cars. They're building a massive factory, Arsenal 1. Right now, they're producing about 100 Bolt drones a month. They're aiming to hit 175 a month soon.
175 a month. Be honest with me. Ukraine goes through thousands of drones a day. 175 seems kind of low.
It's a very valid critique. 175 a month is a rounding error in a high-intensity conflict like the one in Ukraine. It's a start for a very specific high-end capability, but it highlights the massive gap in Western industrial capacity compared to Russia's mass production or, China's dual-use ecosystem. We are trying to catch up, but the scale of modern war is just voracious.
Still, for the Marines, 600 of these things is a lot of firepower for a single squad. It's not meant to replace artillery, I guess, but to augment it.
It fits perfectly with their prickly porcupine strategy for the Indo-Pacific. Imagine small Marine squads on islands hidden in the tree line. They don't need to call in an airstrike and wait 20 minutes.
Right.
They have a 20-kilometer precision strike capability right there in their backpacks. They can hit a ship or a landing craft and remain completely unseen.
It's the democratization of air power. But if everyone has these, how do you stop them? If the Bolt-M uses AI to ignore jamming, are we just defenseless?
That raises the next big question: countermeasures. If radio jamming doesn't work because the drone is flying visually, you need to turn to physics. We're seeing the rise of microwave weapons.
Like the Lattice system.
Exactly like that. High-power microwaves that can just fry the electronics of a drone swarm. It doesn't matter if it's autonomous or remote-controlled. If you fry the chips, it falls out of the sky.
It's like a real-life EMP gun.
Basically. We're also seeing a strange return to fiber optics. Wired drones that unspool a thin wire behind them are totally unjammable. But for now, the Bolt-M is betting on vision AI being the answer.
It really comes down to the human element for me, though. You mentioned the cognitive load earlier.
And that is the biggest selling point for the military. In a firefight, your heart rate is 160. You're terrified. You can't be fiddling with joysticks trying to keep a drone stable in the wind.
No chance.
The Bolt-M allows the soldier to focus on tactics. Is that the right target? Is that a civilian or a combatant? Rather than on the mechanics of flying.
It frees up your brain to make life or death decisions instead of aerodynamic decisions.
Exactly. And that reduction in cognitive load makes the entire squad more lethal and ultimately more survivable.
So, to sum this all up, we have a new AI-powered weapon, the Bolt-M. It's been bought by the Marines, but likely already battle-tested in Ukraine, and it's designed specifically to survive the heaviest electronic warfare on the planet.
It's a mix of Silicon Valley hype and lethal reality. But the contracts don't lie. The West is finally waking up to the fact that in modern war, quantity has a quality all its own, and autonomy is the only way to survive in this new jamming environment.
It is a fascinating and, I have to admit, a somewhat terrifying time for military technology. We are literally watching the future of war being written in real time.
I think if we look at the bigger picture, we are moving toward a world where a backpack drone has the precision of a multi-million-dollar missile. But with costs coming down and autonomy going up, the question isn't just who has the best drone, it's who can build them faster than the enemy can fry them.
That is a thought that will keep me up tonight. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want to support our coverage of the situation in Europe, subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.